ask you to step back a moment and think, what is a price? And where does it come from? Most of us are not used to thinking like that. We just sort of accept prices as given, and when we see the price of something, usually, for the most part, all we're concerned about is, can I afford that? Or do I want to pay that much? We don't ask ourselves, what's the meaning of that price? But prices are, the great Nobel laureate economist, F.A. Hayek, he once said that prices are really like a language of a kind. They're a language that all of us know how to read without ever having taken a course or having any training. We all know how to read prices, and we do so flawlessly every day, all day long, every single one of us. Now, maybe a little child who's 2 years old, children have to learn what prices are. But by the time you're here in college, I guarantee you know exactly how to read a price. And we all do it without any training. Now, what do I mean by that? First of all, where do prices come from? Prices are not mandated by business people or capitalists or something like that. They don't just make them up out of thin air. Prices, for one thing, are a worldwide phenomenon. They transcend borders. You can open up any newspaper and you can see the world market prices for various commodities and goods and so forth. Right? Prices transcend, they are global in nature. But what a price tells you, a price, where it comes from, it's an unintended byproduct of human action, of our action. Every single time you buy or sell something, and most of the time when we buy something or sell something, we're only thinking about gratifying our own needs and wants. We're not thinking about the overall order or the price system or anything like that. We're just trying, I need some milk, what's the price? I'm willing to pay it, and you hand over the money and you buy it. Or you look at the price and you go, I'm not willing to buy it. But every time you buy something, what you and every other consumer across the world is doing is indirectly affecting the price of that item. The more, economists talk about supply and demand. Demand is when you're willing to hand over your money to buy something, and supply is when you're willing to produce something and bring it to the market to sell. It's the interaction of the relative price structure in a society or across the world is formed as an unintended consequence of the actions of millions and millions and even billions of people throughout the world. Every time you buy something, you are putting pressure on that price. When demand increases, when more people buy something, what do you think happens to the price? Does it go up or down? It responds to this increase in demand. Well, if you said it goes up, you're correct. An increase in demand generally leads to an increase in the price of something. How about the opposite? How about when people stop buying a given product en masse? Not just one person, but lots of people. Demand goes down. What's going to happen to the price of that item over time? It will come down. As demand decreases, the price decreases, right? Same thing on the other side, on supply. As the supply of a good or service increases, what happens to its price? Today, there are 10 gallons of milk on the market. Tomorrow, there's 1,000 gallons of milk on the market. What's going to happen to the price of milk if the supply increases? The price comes down. And how about, and of course, we're experiencing this now in our society, if the supply decreases, what tends to happen to its price? Supply decreases, prices increase. And so it's the intersection of these two phenomena, the demand, the general demand for a good or service, and the supply of a good or service that indirectly determine the price of something. Prices move in accordance, in line with human action. The more people buy something, puts upward pressure on the price. Now, how does that, and the less they buy, it puts downward pressure on the price. So back to reading the language of prices. Okay, so you go to the grocery store. Today, milk costs, I'll just make up a price, $4 a gallon. You go back tomorrow and the very same milk, I'll exaggerate to make it easy, the very same milk costs $400 a gallon. It's increased in price from $4 a gallon to $400 a gallon. Okay, how do you read that as a consumer? Remember, we wear different hats in society. And certainly our different economic hats. Sometimes we act as a consumer when we buy things, and if you have a job, you also act as a producer or a supplier. All right, so let's say you have on your consumer hat now and you go to the store and you want to get a gallon of milk. Yesterday that gallon of milk cost $4. Today the same gallon cost $400. How do you read that as a consumer? And how does that induce you to act one way or another? For most of us, now there may be a few exceptions for various unusual reasons, but if the price of milk goes from $4 to $400, what are we going to do? How are we going to respond to that? We buy less. We go, you know what? I think I'm going to find a substitute for milk because I'm not paying $400 for a gallon of milk. That's how most people will react. There may be a few people who, for some strange reason, believe they must have that milk and no matter what, and they'll pay the $400. They will get the existing milk if they're willing to pay that price. Most of us will walk away and find a substitute, all right? So this goes back to the old law of economics. An increase in price leads to a decrease in demand. So people will take themselves out of the market, they won't buy that $400 milk, and they'll find some substitute somewhere. Now, what are the possible causes of the increase in price? There's really only two. People don't need to know it in order to act correctly, because when they stop buying it, they are acting correctly from a social point of view. But what could have caused that rise in price? There are two possibilities. Well, there are probably three, but let's put aside inflation right now and manipulation of the money supply. But from the sheer point of view of buy and sell, well, an increase in price says one of two things. Either there's been a tremendous increase in demand, putting an upward pressure on the price, or there's a decrease in supply, which also puts an upward pressure on the price. As consumers, we don't need to know which one it is. All we need to know is the price has gone up in order to do the right thing. And the right thing in the case of a good and service that's increased in price is to cut back on it. Because what that means is that not everybody, the price has gone up, which means that all the people who bought milk yesterday at $4 a gallon, they are not going to be able to buy it today, either because the demand has increased or the supply has decreased. There's not enough to go around. That's why the price has gone up. So there's sort of a self-selecting process there. Who gets the existing limited supply of milk? As I said, those people who are willing to pay the $400. The rest of us will substitute and find something else. So we're doing the right thing from a social point of view, because an increase in price means either the demand has gone up or supply has gone down. In any event, there's not enough to go around, so we should cut back on consumption. And that's what people just do without anybody forcing them to do it. We will not pay the $400, we'll look for a substitute. But that's exactly what we should be doing from a larger social point of view, because that increase in price tells us that good is now more scarce than it was the day before. Okay, now let's look at the same issue from the point of view of the producer. Let's say that you're in business and you have a milk production business and you have cows and you produce gallons of milk. That's what you do for a living. And why are you doing that? To make a profit. That's how you support yourself through that business. So now the same thing happens. The price of milk dramatically increases from $4 to $400. But now you're the producer. How do you read that increase in price as a producer? Yesterday, the good that you were producing, the milk, you were able to get $4 a gallon for each one. Today, the exact same milk, in the short run, your other costs haven't gone up yet. This is just a day later. Today, the exact same milk, you're going to get $400 for each gallon. So what do you do as a producer? As a consumer, we saw the increase in price led you to cut back on on consumption. But now you're in the producer's seat, and you were getting $4 yesterday. Today you're getting $400. So what are you going to do? You're going to produce more milk, because it's the very same thing. Yesterday you got $4. Today you get $400. That's a windfall profit for you, and you're going to take advantage of this. Who knows how long it will last? You are getting an amazing windfall profit, because now every gallon you produce, you get $400 instead of the $4. So producers they read the increase in price as an incentive to increase production in their own interest because they will increase their profits in so doing. Nobody has to force them. Nobody has to, whip them or pass any laws. People are in business to make money. And if you're getting $400 for the gallon of milk rather than $4, you want to keep that going. So what are you going to do as the producer? You're going to try to increase your production as quickly as you can. You're going to hire more people. You're going to build new machinery. You're going to maybe buy some more cows, whatever it takes to bring more milk to the market. You have every incentive to invest your resources in doing that because now you can get $400 for each gallon as opposed to $4. Now, is that good or bad? Are they acting correctly from a social point of view? Yes, exactly. Because what's the high price mean? Remember, one of two things. It either means there's an increased demand, in which case they should increase supply to meet the increased demand, or there's a decrease in supply. And in that case, they should also increase production to increase the supply. So producers are acting exactly as they should from a social point of view by increasing production in response to higher prices, just as consumers were doing what they should do, which is decrease consumption in the face of higher prices. And this is the way the market process works in coordinating human behavior and allowing us to use scarce resources wisely and rationally. We do it by reading prices and responding to them as both consumers and producers. And this is how the scarce goods of this world that are coordinated among millions of people who cannot and do not know one another. Everybody across the world reads price signals and they respond in the way that we mentioned. Increase in price, you consume less. Increase in price, you produce more. Everybody does it. And that's what allows for, eventually what we're looking for is, if demand increased, and that's what caused the rise in prices, the way to solve that is to produce more. But nobody has to force the producers to do that naturally because they want to make a profit. And all this process will continue until there's an equilibrium where as the producers produce more milk in order to make more profit, that will eventually increase the supply of milk. And that will start coming to the market. And so what happens there? If, say, demand is high and stable, but the producers are producing more and they're increasing the supply, and the supply starts coming to the market, what's going to happen to the price of the milk as the supply starts increasing? It's going to start coming down. And it will keep coming down until the profit that milk producers make is no higher than the profit that people can make in any other industry. As long as the profit in the milk industry is above normal, producers will keep bringing more to the market. But that brings down the price, and as the price comes down, their rate of return comes down, and eventually the increase in production will stop. And what's the final thing look like? It's been an increase in demand, but there's also been an increase in supply to match that increase in demand, just as we would want, because we're trying to match up supply with demand. And it all works, it's a self-regulating system. The only thing that's necessary, we don't need anybody, any supervisor, any planner, anybody in Washington forcing producers to produce or preventing consumers from buying. People do it in their own self-interest. Consumers will automatically cut back on consumption and producers will automatically increase production, which is just what they should be doing in response to an increase in price. And the identical thing happens when prices fall. When prices fall, okay, you go to the grocery store and milk was $4 a gallon today. Tomorrow you go back and the same milk is 40 cents a gallon. How do you read that? Well, you don't need to know why, but a lot of people are going to buy a whole lot more milk when it costs 40 cents than when it costs $4. They will increase their consumption in response to the fall in price. But is that what they should be doing? Yes, it is, because what's the fall in price mean? One of two things. Either demand has decreased or supply has increased. And in either case, it's saying milk is much more plentiful. Come have as much as you want. It's only 40 cents a gallon. But that's what they should be doing. And that's what they do. Because as the price falls, we buy more. Now, how about the producer? Today you're making $4 for your milk. Tomorrow morning you wake up and the market has changed and you're making 40 cents for the gallon of milk. How do you respond to that as a producer? Today you're getting $4 for each gallon. Tomorrow you're only getting 40 cents. Well, you're taking a loss here. If it costs you more than you're probably not going to be able to stay in business. In any event, you're going to cut way back on production because now you're only getting 40 cents for the milk that yesterday you were getting $4 for. So you're going to stop producing it or cut back on production. But is that a good thing? Yes, it is, because again, what does that 40 cents mean? It means either there's been a tremendous decrease in demand, so the producers don't make any more, people don't want it, or there's been a huge increase in supply. Producers don't make any more, there's already a huge supply out there. So that's how it works. That's how economic activity is coordinated throughout the world, by people reading the language of relative prices, which are indirectly formed by the actions of consumers, right? So in the end, there's a principle in economics that in the market economy, the consumer is sovereign. What does that mean? God is sovereign. Sovereign is the ultimate authority beyond which there is no other. In a market economy, the consumer is sovereign because the producers are free to produce whatever they want. But the only way you're going to make a profit or stay in business is if you produce things not that you want, but that the consumer wants. Because if people stop buying something, look, people are fickle. So think in your own life, how many times you have changed your consumption habits. One day you love this kind of cell phone, the next day a new one, and everybody leaves that other one and buys a different kind of cell phone. Well, what happened to the producers of the old one? Well, they're out of luck. People don't want it anymore. And if people don't buy your product, nobody can make a profit, and so they go out of business. Consumers ultimately decide what kinds of businesses stay in business or not by their decision to buy or not to buy. So in the end, it's the consumer who determines what continues to be produced in a society. As I said, producers are free to give it a try, but there's no guarantee that they are going to be successful. To be successful, they have to tailor their production to what the consumer wants. That's why the market serves the consumer. People always talk about capitalism as if somehow business people benefit from this. That's not the case. Business people, it's a very perilous system because, like I said, consumers are fickle. One day you're riding high and making a lot of profit. The next day they change their mind and nobody's buying anything that you're selling. So it's a risky business from the producer's point of view. The market process, in the end, ultimately benefits the consumer by driving prices down to their lowest possible and at the best possible quality. Because if they're not, other competitors will come in and take business away from the firms that are charging more than needed or producing at an inferior quality to another firm. So it's consumers who benefit from the market process, not the business community. That's why there's so many lobbyists up there in Washington from the business community trying to restrict the market process, having laws passed that restrict competition and so forth. Business people don't like competition. The market does not help business, it helps the consumer. And that's why it has produced the greatest material prosperity the world has ever seen, because in order to make a profit, you simply must tailor your production to the needs and desires of the consumers as represented by their willingness to buy or not to buy your product. And the reason why the market is that all advocates of freedom also advocate the market process or the price system is because in a market exchange, all exchange 100% is voluntary. Nobody is permitted to force anybody to buy or sell anything. And so if you want to buy something, you're free to buy it if the seller is willing to sell it to you. And if you don't want to buy it, you're free to say no and walk away if you don't like the terms of the trade. And the same thing from the seller's point of view. So any trade that does occur is by definition voluntary, free on both sides, which is why the market is the only system, as we'll see, that is compatible with individual freedom, understood as the absence of coercion. If I wish you were in the classroom with me now, because I proved this to you by a little example. I'd say, okay, I'll play both roles here. Or let's say you're in the classroom and I say to you, okay, anybody here somebody has a beautiful, nice new Mac laptop there. Okay, so I say, okay, Jeremiel, would you like to trade this half bottle of water for your computer? What do you think he says? He says, no. I go, really? Okay, well, how about, do you want to trade this half bottle of water and, I don't know, this used Fitbit for the computer? And he'll say, no. I'll say, okay, how about the water the bracelet, and that used a used Contigo water bottle. No. So I said, okay, how about all same thing? How about the water bottle, the Fitbit, the Contigo bottle, and $300 million for the laptop? Chances are he'll say yes, and we'll make the exchange. What does that prove? It proves that all economic exchange, market exchange, is voluntary. Because when I made an offer to him that he didn't think, that he wasn't interested in, all he had to do was say no, 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 no. And the only way I could get him to voluntarily hand over the laptop was to make him an offer that he wanted to accept, the $300 million. And that's true for all market exchange. So the market system, as we'll see, is the only system compatible with individual freedom. As we'll see, socialized systems necessarily have to rely on coercion, which is why they have not only a practical problem, not able to get the knowledge that they need to make rational economic plans, but also a moral problem. They cannot be achieved without abandoning freedom, without coercion. Okay, next time we will come back and continue this discussion of the economic arrangements of capitalism and also of socialism. So till then, bye.